a wealthy man discovered his black cleaning employees studying in the dark. The subsequent events astonished everyone. "What on earth are you doing here?" Arthur Blackwood's piercing voice resonated through the deserted luxury apartment at 3 in the morning, causing the 26-year-old woman to lift her gaze from the texts spread across the polished floor. Lena Miller remained seated with an unsettling composure, her small portable lamp illuminating sections of advanced mathematical equations. Surrounding her, cleaning tools and neatly folded cloths indicated she had completed her work period. Yet, there she was, engrossed in mathematics as if the expansive $30 million residence were her own private study space. "Mr. Blackwood," she responded in a composed tone that caused a reaction within the rich man's feelings. "I have finished my cleaning duties. I was simply taking a moment to review my studies before departing for home." Arthur descended the elaborate stairs with deliberate movements, his luxurious silk nightwear starkly contrasting with the cleaning lady's modest attire. At 42, he had amassed a real estate fortune by being merciless towards individuals who failed to understand their societal standing, and a cleaning lady engaging in academic pursuits in his residence certainly transgressed that boundary. "Study," he scoffed disdainfully. "Do you comprehend your vocation? This is not a public library. It is my dwelling, and I compensate you to clean, not to act as a scholar." Lena slowly closed her textbook, carefully putting away the $5 calculator she had acquired from a convenience store. There was a captivating quality to her actions, unhurried and fearless, akin to someone who had endured far greater adversities and prevailed. "With all due respect, sir, I have completed all required tasks. The house is pristine, as I always ensure it is." Her reply merely intensified Arthur's irritation. For a span of 6 months, Lena had been unnoticeable to him, merely another staff member who arrived, cleaned, and departed. However, discovering her there with university texts, delving into advanced calculus as if she possessed the right to aspire beyond her designated role, stirred an instinctive reaction within his mind. "Listen attentively," he declared, moving closer, attempting to cower her with his stature. "Individuals like you occupy a specific place in society. Do not attempt to be something you are not. It is pathetic." At that moment, something shifted in Lena's gaze. For an instant, Arthur perceived a flicker that prompted him to take an inadvertent step backward. It was not anger. It was something considerably more menacing. It was the calm assurance of an individual possessing knowledge too potent to be disclosed until the appropriate moment. "Individuals such as myself," she reiterated deliberately, relishing each syllable. "A fascinating viewpoint, Mr. Blackwood." Throughout those 6 months employed in the lavish apartment, Lena had been more perceptive than Arthur had envisioned. She had incidentally heard business discussions, observed papers left unattended on surfaces, and witnessed gatherings where questionable transactions were made. This was data that an overconfident millionaire would never anticipate a mere cleaning professional to comprehend, or, more critically, to systematically record. "You are dismissed," Arthur proclaimed with deliberate detachment. "You may collect your personal items and depart, and do not even contemplate requesting recommendations." Lena rose, unhurriedly, collecting her academic materials with the identical poise she had shown when opening them. As she reached the exit, she paused and turned to Arthur with that same mysterious grin that had unsettled him moments earlier. "Mr. Blackwood," she uttered in a voice that reverberated against the polished stone walls, "have you ever encountered the adage concerning the danger of underestimating those who consistently observe?" The query lingered in the atmosphere like a disguised pledge as Lena exited the penthouse carrying not only her textbooks, but also 6 months of precise observations regarding a man who had just committed the most significant error of his existence. There, confronting the expression of contempt he was so familiar with, she remained composed, like someone safeguarding intelligence too volatile to be exposed before the opportune time. For Lena was not merely a skilled housekeeper who was being unfairly treated. She was an economics scholar who had achieved summa cum laude honors, and had dedicated half a year to amassing proof of unlawful actions that Arthur was entirely unaware she possessed the capacity to grasp. If this narrative of bias and misjudgment resonated with you, remember to subscribe to the channel to discover how a simple instance of prejudice would evolve into the impetus for a monumental collapse that would permanently alter both their destinies. The subsequent dawn, Arthur Blackwood awoke within a peculiar sense of annoyance he could not articulate. The events of the previous evening continued to occupy his thoughts persistently. Not the housecleaner's defiance, which he was accustomed to handling, but rather that expression, that infuriating serenity she displayed, as if she possessed knowledge he lacked. "Absurd," he mumbled to himself, adjusting his expensive Italian necktie. "A cleaning lady attempting to unnerve me." Yet, his vexation intensified when his personal assistant, Sarah, entered his workspace with a troubled demeanor. "Mr. Blackwood, the cleaning service telephoned," she began. "They are inquiring as to why Lena Miller was dismissed. Apparently, she was their most highly regarded staff member." "Reason," Arthur chuckled scornfully. She did not comprehend her position. I discovered that woman studying within my residence as though it were a community library. Unacceptable. Sarah paused. Sir, may I ask what type of subject matter she was reviewing? I am indifferent as to whether it was a celebrity periodical or a how-to guide, Arthur asserted, striking his hand on the desk. Household staff do not engage in academic pursuits in their employers' residences. Full stop. What Arthur remained unaware of was that while he was fuming in his opulent office, Lena was at the modest local public library, neither weeping nor regretting, as he had presumed, but rather undertaking something far more hazardous. She was systematizing 6 months' worth of intelligence she had diligently gathered. Throughout her 6 months employed in the penthouse, Lena had established a pattern that went undetected. She consistently arrived 40 minutes ahead of schedule. Not due to exceptional commitment, but because she had realized that Arthur routinely left crucial papers strewn about the premises. Following evening consultations with associates and financiers, these included agreements for land acquisitions in regions that would appreciate due to privileged information procured via connections at the municipal office. There were also illicit payment arrangements disguised as advisory fees to secure construction permits with unprecedented swiftness, and digital messages coordinating price rigging at government auctions with fellow industry magnates. Lena did not simply observe this data. It was she who subtly captured images of it with an outdated mobile phone that no one would suspect housed a camera capable enough to record proof. Her economics qualification from the State University, where she achieved summa cum laude honors while simultaneously juggling 3 occupations to sustain herself, had provided her not only with the specialized expertise to grasp intricate financial arrangements, but also the unwavering resolve required to implement extended strategies. Her certificate was kept securely in a compartment within the modest dwelling she shared with her mother and her 2 younger siblings. For 2 years following her graduation, Lena submitted her curricula vitae to every prominent financial advisory corporation in the metropolitan area. She obtained only 3 replies, all courteous denials that indicated her background was not suitable for the corporate environment. That was when she opted to alter her approach. If she could not gain entry through the primary entrance of the realm of dishonest, affluent individuals, she would enter through the rear. Literally, securing employment as a cleaning operative at the firm that serviced the city's most extravagant residences was not mere chance. It was a deliberate scheme. Lena devoted weeks to analyzing recruitment tendencies, work timetables, and the properties attended. Upon discovering that Arthur Blackwood required a new cleaner, she submitted her application for the position on that very day. "Do you possess any recommendations?" inquired the cleaning company manager. "I possess something superior," Lena answered with that identical mysterious grin that would trouble Arthur many months later. "I require demanding work." For 6 months, she remained imperceptible to Arthur, precisely as she had intended. She would arrive, perform her cleaning duties flawlessly, accumulate data, and depart without attracting notice, until she determined she had amassed sufficient material and required a pretext to be dismissed without arousing suspicion about her genuine objectives. Engaging in advanced calculus study in the penthouse was not an oversight, it was a calculated lure. She was aware Arthur would be present at that specific hour, because she had diligently observed his consistent Thursday habit of returning prematurely from professional dinners at the club. She understood he would react precisely as he did, with conceitedness and bias. Now at the community library, Lena activated a second-hand portable computer she had purchased with her accumulated funds, and began arranging the most explosive compilation of evidence the local upper class had ever witnessed. It was not merely proof of dishonesty, but a thorough chart detailing how Arthur Blackwood had constructed his $30 million fortune upon a basis of illicit payments, confidential knowledge, and the rigging of governmental contracts. Her mobile device vibrated. A message from her younger sister, Emily, who was only 16. "Lena, did you secure another employment opportunity? Mother is concerned about this month's financial obligations." Lena observed the display, then surveyed the numerous records arranged before her. For many years, her family had relinquished everything to enable her education. Her mother, Maria, worked consecutive shifts as a healthcare professional at a government-operated medical facility. Emily and Chloe, 18, shared a part-time position at a casual eatery to assist with expenditures. They merited a superior existence than the one of hardship they endured. They deserved vindication. And Arthur Blackwood, who had accumulated his wealth by oppressing individuals like her, was on the verge of discovering that he had misjudged the incorrect individual. "Inform Mother not to be anxious," Lena responded via text. "Soon, our circumstances will undergo a complete transformation." What Arthur Blackwood could not fathom, as he boasted to his associates about having disciplined an impertinent worker, was that every instance of disdain had been meticulously recorded and categorized by someone who possessed not only the substantiation of his transgressions, but also the scholarly foundation required to comprehend precisely how to leverage that intelligence to dismantle his enterprise, piece by piece. Each subsequent affront merely fortified an inner resolve within Lena that privileged individuals like Arthur failed to perceive. A quiet power fueled by the very unfairness they aimed to impose. She was systematically crafting the judgment for those who considered themselves beyond accountability for their deeds. 3 weeks following her termination, financial hardship impacted the Miller household like a tempest. Lena's final earnings had been expended on acquiring medication for her mother, Maria, for elevated blood pressure, and now only $43 remained in her purse. "Lena, did you find anything today?" inquired Emily, arriving home after another extended work period at the diner. At that age, she had assumed obligations that no young person ought to endure. "I am still searching," Lena falsely stated, swiftly closing the notebook where she had compiled the evidence against Arthur. She could not confide in her family about her true objective. They would not comprehend her refusal of cleaning assignments that presented themselves as she awaited the opportune moment to act. Concurrently, Arthur Blackwood was enjoying an optimal existence. At the exclusive golf course where he regularly met his associates each Thursday, he recounted the anecdote of the insolent cleaning professional, as if it were a private jest. "You will not believe it," he guffawed, gesturing with his $300 whiskey tumbler. "I discovered that individual studying mathematical analysis in my sitting room, Calc Ferris, as if a housekeeper could grasp intricate mathematics." Daniel Green, a youthful investigative reporter who held a part-time role as a server at the establishment to finance his university education, had overheard the entire narrative. Daniel was well acquainted with the domain of dishonest, influential figures. He had been raised in the identical inner-city district as Lena, secured an academic grant through diligent effort, and now concentrated on uncovering illicit financial activities within the corporate upper echelons. The subsequent morning, he located Lena at the community library. "Forgive my intrusion," he stated carefully as he approached the desk where she was occupied. "My designation is Daniel Green. I am a journalist. I was informed you were formerly employed by Arthur Blackwood." Lena raised her gaze, appraising the young man before her. Something about his demeanor, the manner in which he articulated, implied he was more than just a casually interested observer. "I was. Why? Because I have been scrutinizing him for 2 years, and I have never managed to get sufficiently close to acquire concrete proof," Daniel explained, lowering his tone, "but someone who worked within his residence for months." It was then that Lena recognized she had discovered precisely what she required. Not merely an individual with connections to news outlets, but someone who already understood Arthur's strategies and possessed the vital contacts to transform substantiation into tangible repercussions. "What category of evidence do you require?" she inquired, opening her journal before another person for the initial time. Daniel's vision widened at the scrupulous arrangement of the papers. Falsified agreements, entries of questionable monetary transfers, the orchestration of illicit plans with other entrepreneurs, all indexed by calendar date, financial value, and involved parties. "My goodness," he murmured. "This is ample to dismantle not just Blackwood, but half the business leaders in this metropolis." "I am not yet finished," Lena responded with that mysterious smirk that had troubled Arthur weeks beforehand. "I possess 3 additional contacts who have corroborated intelligence regarding dishonest proposals at the municipal administration." Over the subsequent weeks, while Lena persisted in feigning job seeking to alleviate her family's concerns, she and Daniel collaborated to assemble an unquestionable compendium of evidence. Every paper was authenticated, every financial exchange tracked, every individual involved in the illegal operation identified. Arthur, entirely unaware of the impending events, committed his most significant error yet. During an assembly with financiers in his luxurious apartment, the very location where he had demeaned her, he was videotaped by a surveillance device, offering illicit payments in exchange for confidential information concerning a public housing initiative. The irony was exquisite. The identical individual who had disparaged Lena for her studies was being recorded as he conspired to reallocate funds, designated for individuals precisely like her. "We have it," Daniel declared, presenting the recording to Lena. "With this, alongside the documents you gathered, we possess sufficient material for a series of that will destabilize the entire hierarchy of authority in the city." Lena gazed intently at the screen, observing Arthur gesticulating pompously as he elucidated how to manipulate government agreements. For an instant, she experienced an almost tangible gratification, envisioning his reaction upon realizing he had been vanquished by the incompetent cleaning professional he had so scorned. "When do we disseminate this?" she inquired. "Next Monday. Front page of the newspaper. Primary online portal. Concurrent social media distributions." Daniel grinned. "It will be unfeasible to conceal or diminish its impact." That evening, Lena arrived home to discover her mother awaiting her in the main living area. With that particular expression only mothers possess when they are aware of something significant occurring. "My child, you have been transformed. More composed, more resolute. What exactly are you devising?" Lena embraced Maria, inhaling the familiar aroma of medical sanitizer that invariably clung to her mother following consecutive work periods. "Mother, do you recall when you mentioned that one day our circumstances would be different?" "I recall. That day has arrived. On Monday, the world will comprehend my true identity." Maria cradled her daughter's countenance in her palms, perceiving something in Lena's gaze that caused her to smile for the first time in many weeks. It was the identical resolute spirit that had guided the young woman from the disadvantaged neighborhood to achieve summa cum laude, while maintaining 3 employments. "What have you accomplished?" "Lena, justice. Mother, merely justice." While Arthur Blackwood reposed tranquilly in his $30 million luxury apartment, utterly persuaded that he had resolved the predicament of the impertinent cleaning professional, Lena Miller was applying the concluding refinements to a retaliation that would not only reshape their individual existences but also the entire established system of power that individuals, like him, exploited to suppress people like her. What that affluent man could not conceive was that every demonstration of scorn had been painstakingly chronicled by an individual who not only possessed the substantiation of his illegal acts, but also the scholarly foundation required to orchestrate his demise with such precision that evading the repercussions would be Monday, 6 o'clock in the morning, Arthur Blackwood was roused by the persistent chiming of his mobile telephone. Initially, it was his personal aide, then the corporate legal counsel, succeeded by 3 distinct journalists, all speaking simultaneously about sensational news items and prominent headlines. "What on earth are you discussing?" Arthur yelled into the receiver, still clad in his sleepwear, proceeding into the penthouse living area where he customarily consumed his morning meal, while appreciating the exclusive cityscape panorama. That was when he perceived it. His personal likeness was prominently featured on the leading page of the area's largest newspaper, adjacent to the headline in bold print, "Tycoon's fortune founded on kickbacks and deceit. Exclusive records expose corruption network." Arthur felt his limbs weaken. He grasped the newspaper with quivering digits and commenced reading. Each segment was a profound blow. Dishonest agreements he was certain no one had observed. Digital communications coordinating illicit payments that he had expunged. Audio recordings of discussions that had transpired in supposedly secure venues. "Impossible," he murmured, feverishly turning the sheets. How did they procure this? Daniel Green's investigative article was a supreme achievement of journalistic inquiry. Every allegation was supported by accompanying papers, photographs, banking statements, a comprehensive depiction of how Arthur had transformed illegal payments into capital, privileged intelligence into a competitive edge, and manipulation into a vast dominion. However, it was towards the conclusion of the second page that Arthur experienced a complete collapse of his world. A photograph of him extending an illicit payment within his own penthouse, accompanied by the precise date and hour. Beneath the accompanying text, which sent a shiver down his spine, stated, "Evidence supplied by an undisclosed informant, who maintained exclusive entry to the entrepreneur's dwelling for numerous months." Undisclosed, informant with exclusive access, he articulated audibly, commencing to draw connections. Months of entry. His mobile phone chimed once more. This instance, it was the chief executive of the financial institution where he held his primary accounts. "Arthur, we urgently require a discussion. The federal auditors are already present." Before he could reply, another incoming call rang. The city's mayor, in distress. "Blackwood, you have compromised my position. I must publicly disassociate myself from you immediately." One after another, all the connections who had contributed to establishing his dominion started severing their ties. Investors demanded the return of their capital. Associates proclaimed themselves to be casualties of deception. Official agencies declared criminal inquiries. By 9 in the morning, Arthur was confined within his penthouse study, witnessing his existence unravel in real time on the broadcast. News presenters debated his offenses as if they were established realities. Specialists estimated the duration he would serve incarcerated. His financial holdings had been provisionally frozen. It was then that the entry chime sounded. "Mr. Blackwood," a recognizable feminine voice reverberated through the intercommunication system. "It is Lena Miller. I am here to return an item you neglected." Arthur felt the air escape his respiratory system. Lena, the cleaning employee he had disgraced and discharged. The female he had labeled inept, whom he had regarded as subordinate, whom he had treated as inferior, whom he had utterly undervalued. With trembling digits, he depressed the activation button to grant her entry. 5 minutes subsequent, she stood before him, clad in a modest jacket, yet carrying a leather portfolio that he instantly recognized. It was identical to those utilized by his legal representatives. "I came to present this personally," Lena stated, setting a copy of the newspaper, featuring his image on the primary page, onto the desk. "I presumed you might appreciate a signed edition." Arthur observed her, attempting to assimilate the alteration. Her upright stance, her direct glance, the self-assurance emanating from her every motion. How had he failed to comprehend that this woman was significantly more than she appeared? "It was you," he whispered. You accumulated all this intelligence. For 6 months, Mr. Blackwood. Each instance you left papers unattended around the residence, presuming that a simple cleaning professional would be incapable of deciphering intricate financial agreements or identifying indicators of illicit money transfers. The truth struck Arthur with the force of a powerful wave. Her qualification is in economics. Summa cum laude, State University. Lena smiled, the identical mysterious grin that had unsettled him weeks prior, but now he grasped its profound significance. Amusing, is it not? You dismissed me for engaging in mathematical study, unaware that I had already obtained a degree in a discipline that enabled me to fully comprehend each of your illegal operations. Arthur slumped into his seating, at last realizing the extent of his haughtiness. Why did you undertake this? Because individuals like you construct fortunes by exploiting people like myself and my kin. Because you believe your standing renders you invulnerable. She leaned slightly forward, speaking with a chilling composure that caused Arthur to flinch, but primarily because you committed the grave error of misjudging my intellectual capacity, based solely on my ethnic background and socioeconomic standing. Arthur's mobile phone rang once again. This time, it was his personal legal counsel. Arthur, the Internal Revenue Service is seizing all your holdings. You must surrender yourself voluntarily before an arrest warrant is issued. Lena observed Arthur receiving the tidings, witnessing the precise instant he comprehended he had irrevocably forfeited everything: his opulence, his standing, his autonomy. All due to the unskilled cleaning employee he had scorned. There is one final matter, Mr. Blackwood, she stated, moving towards the exit. My family no longer faces financial hardship. The compensation I received for collaborating with the inquiry was ample enough to guarantee that my mother can cease employment. My siblings can complete their higher education, and I can finally pursue a career in the field I dedicated so much effort to studying. Arthur lifted his gaze, observing Lena standing in the threshold of the penthouse, where she had endured humiliation weeks earlier. You orchestrated all of this from the very beginning. No, Mr. Blackwood, I simply prepared myself for the opportune moment, and you, with your haughtiness and bias, provided me with precisely what I required to transform 6 months of diligent scrutiny into the substantiation necessary to collapse your dominion of falsehoods. As Arthur Blackwood confronted the likelihood of numerous decades in confinement and the comprehensive forfeiture of everything he had striven for, Lena Miller traversed the urban landscape with the calm conviction of an individual who had demonstrated that intellect and tenacity consistently overcome arrogance and prejudice, even when the confrontation appears insurmountable from its outset. 6 months later, Arthur Blackwood occupied a federal penitentiary cell, clad in an orange detention uniform that stood in sharp contrast to the $3,000 suits he habitually wore. His judicial sentence: 15 years for organized criminal activity, illicit financial transfers, and active bribery. The $30 million enterprise had been entirely disassembled, real estate auctioned off, monetary holdings confiscated, investments squandered. The man who once condescended to a cleaning professional for not understanding her place now cohabited with offenders who treated him precisely as he had treated Lena, as a subordinate. Meanwhile, Lena Miller was commencing her initial day as a leading analyst at the preeminent financial advisory corporation in the city. Her workspace, offering an expansive vista, was situated within the identical structure where Arthur formerly concluded his dishonest arrangements. Yet she now held a role 3 stories superior to anything he had ever attained. Commendations on the regulatory adherence report, Lena remarked. Her supervisor, Dr. Rossi. Your examination prevented the organization from becoming entangled in a plan akin to Blackwood's. You safeguarded our standing. The professional acknowledgement was gratifying, but what genuinely pleased Lena was observing her family flourish. Her mother, Maria, had retired from her hospital career and now dedicated her time to cultivating a modest garden at the new residence they had acquired. Emily was enrolled in medical school, supported by the academic grant Lena had secured via her professional network. Chloe was pursuing legal studies, motivated by her elder sister's narrative. Lena, did you witness this? Emily returned home with a newspaper. The primary headline depicted Arthur being relocated to a high-security correctional facility following an altercation with fellow detainees. The individual who disgraced your associate is not faring well in incarceration. Lena observed the image devoid of either gratification or compassion. He brought this upon himself. Emily, I merely documented it. The profound alteration was not solely within Lena's existence, but also in the manner her narrative inspired others. Daniel Green had been awarded an investigative journalism prize for his series on corporate dishonesty, and now directed an organization that supported young individuals from urban, underprivileged areas in reporting inequities within the business sector. During a scholarly address at the institution from which she obtained her degree, Lena recounted her experiences to 500 students of economics. When that individual informed me that people like myself occupied a specific societal role, he was correct, she articulated, eliciting mirth from the assembly. Our rightful place is determined by our skills and perseverance, not by where preconceived notions attempt to restrict us. A scholar raised a hand. How did you maintain your composure during the 6 months you were accumulating evidence? Because I ascertained that indignation, devoid of tactical thought, is merely clamor. But indignation, accompanied by deliberation, transforms into equity. Arthur, observing Lena's televised interview from the correctional facility, finally grasped the immense scale of his conceit. The female he had labeled inept was now an advisor to 3 international corporations, a highly sought-after orator, and a prominent figure in the campaign against corporate malfeasance. His former associates, who had joined him in mockery when he spoke of the insolent cleaning professional, now confronted their own inquiries based on the corroboration Lena had furnished to the official bodies. The exclusive golf establishment, where they had ridiculed employees, had forfeited 50% of its members subsequent to the controversies. Every individual we undervalue possesses untapped potential, Lena declared in a concluding conversation. Arthur Blackwood held the conviction that her socioeconomic standing dictated her intellectual aptitude, that hubris cost him his liberty and his riches. The implication extended far beyond the personal account. Enterprises commenced reevaluating their recruitment methodologies. Academic institutions established diversity initiatives, and young people in inner cities came to perceive Lena's narrative as proof that one's origin does not dictate one's ultimate destination. He sought to ruin Lena, but ultimately brought about his own undoing. Lena comprehended that authentic retribution is not about retaliating against those who caused harm. It is about attaining a level of accomplishment her adversaries could never envision. Should this account of metamorphosis and fairness resonate with your sensibilities, ensure you subscribe to the platform for further narratives that establish that wisdom and resolve invariably triumph over haughtiness and bias, irrespective of how unattainable success might initially appear.